recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, we're recording, and we're live now on the Domus Search Leadership Podcast. Domus Search is an executive search business working with biotech, pharma manufacturing, and medical device technology organizations across Europe. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Murat Goker, who is the Chief Commercial Officer and member of the Board of Directors at IDEOGEN. And IDEOGEN are a commercialization platform for the global biotech industry. And I'll let Murat do more of a proper introduction. Great to have you here from Switzerland today.
Yeah, greetings and thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you. And welcome back from your holiday. And perhaps for the benefit of the listeners and audience, maybe you could give me a bit of a broader introduction to IDEOGEN and maybe also that evolution from Consina as well into what the business is today. That would be really great to hear.
Sure, absolutely. So IDEOGEN is actually a commercialization platform for specialty care products, so mainly hospital setting or orphan and rare diseases that initiate in very specialized settings of physicians that have an acumen beyond just the standard GP, right? And so we focus much more on areas like hematology, oncology, but also other areas like hepatology, where there are rare diseases, few patients, a very tailored approach, and we call ourselves almost a medical concierge for both physicians, but also for let's say the healthcare community, because our focus is to be extremely specialized in the areas that we're targeting. What makes us very unique, because there aren't many commercialization platforms, right? What makes us very unique is that we're uniquely positioned to be able to do everything from unlicensed sales all the way through to licensed commercialized products. So basically we provide a shortening of the timeline for patients and physicians to get access to medicines prior to their approvals in any given Ministry of Health or healthcare authority around the world. And then once they are approved, we do the commercialization under a registered status and reimbursed status of the product. And of course, this whole value chain, it requires a lot of know-how. It requires a lot of nuances that you can only know if you're in the business. There's no book you can read. You'd most probably have to read the manuscripts of every Ministry of Health to actually kind of figure out what is to be done, and then go fall down and get up and learn along the way. So I think we're positioned really well in that area. Now, coming to your point of Consina. Consina was a company I established in joint venture with another multinational company back in 2012, and in specific, it was targeting Turkey to Eastern Europe and MENA region. In specific, it started off with, obviously focused on pharmaceuticals, commercialization again of specialty assets, ranging from generics to originator products, and products that require a medical field presence, a lot of key account presence in the market, full-blown 360 degrees pharmacovigilance to whatever a normal standard pharma company does, in essence. So I did build out the company. Currently, it has approximately 50 people still working there, and they are still reporting. There's a country manager and also regional managers that report to me. But it went through an evolution, actually. Evolution and then a revolution, let's put it that way. Went from an evolution of being a joint venture to, within 3 years, us acquiring the partners, and then from there also then to being assimilated into the mothership IDEOGEN, and now also its name has shifted to IDEOGEN as well. So it was a great experience for me, because it was the real first emerging market experience I had. I mean, I had come back from the US, from having done a variety of different businesses, always startups. And I ended up launching the business about 1 year before the economy started to crumble. So obviously the toughest way to launch in an industry I was starting for the first time, the pharma sector, Although in the family, my father does have a background in pharma, I had no experience in the pharma. So it was really fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and today continues to be with all of its ups and downs.
Absolutely. So were you looking, when you were the CEO of Consina as well, were you looking to be acquired? Was that always in the strategic plans, or was it IDEOGEN were looking to collaborate and grow their portfolio?
I think it was just a natural fit. Obviously, there was a connection with IDEOGEN to a certain extent because we were also providing products to IDEOGEN, and of course we wanted to have let's say the backing of a stronger mothership from Switzerland that was a lot more driven into the specialty sector and original products, and also we had a lot of acumen that could feed back in to the European operations because we were specialized in launching very niche products with a lot of medical coverage. I mean, just so you think about the territories that we are covering, like Eastern Europe, Turkey, Middle East, you have hundreds of physicians, a lot of exposure to orphan diseases just by the genetic makeup of the region, because historically hundreds of empires have gone through these areas. So there's a mix of cultures that automatically biologically create a higher prevalence of orphan diseases. So I think it was a natural fit. But of course, initially when we launched under a JV, the purpose was to be a part of the JV and part of this bigger, much bigger multinational that ultimately we were going to continue to be a part of. But one thing led to another, opportunity came, and then we took it. And so then eventually we're acquired 100% by IDEOGEN.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a great timeline on the website as well, but I'll make sure that I share later on the journey of IDEOGEN and where, Consina come in and a smaller port, and then, wholly.
Absolutely.
But that's really exciting. And you're a very international guy as well. So you've been in the US, you've born in Turkey as well. You're now been in Switzerland for many years as well. And also what I found really interesting about you from when we originally spoke a few months ago is your evolution through industries as well, your own transition in business really from retail and fashion. And I guess in some ways, I always see a great link between the hospitality, the retail industries with healthcare as well, because the customer is the consumer at the end of it, and a lot of the business decisions are made for the customer as well. How's that been for you over the years? And did it feel natural? And do you feel at home now in pharma biotech?
So I mean, my evolution, I always knew I wanted to be independent and I wanted to do my own thing. And I knew I needed to do something, had no clue what, but when you're younger, when you're in university, you feel like sky's the limit and you can do whatever you want and you come up with thousands of ideas, although you have no experience whatsoever in understanding what every decision ultimately has a domino effect of creating. When I was in university, I immediately started by setting up my own companies, and kind of stumbled along university and starting up companies, and had some successes, had some flops, and eventually when I finished college and moved to Manhattan, I was working for UBS for 2 years in their investment banking side, and it was fun. I mean, I was young, I was investment banker in Manhattan. I mean, what more do you want? You're a bachelor, it's glamorous, it's TV worthy, all that kind of stuff. But soon enough, what I realized is that I'm spending every lunchtime thinking of how I'm gonna get the hell out of here, and what am I gonna do? And funny enough, I found a very good friend of mine who was feeling the same, and we kind of stumbled upon, okay, we don't know what we're going to do, so let's go and advise others of what to do. So that was our first step to kind of we established a business development agency, and then kind of went along, and one thing led to another, and I ended up in a JV with the Otto Group, which is one of Germany's biggest catalog companies, and we launched a part which was a multi-channel fashion retail brand that was my first real experience of building a super complex business, right? I mean, you're talking about everything from predicting fashion trends ordering products, 6 to 8 months before the trends kick in, selling them already in advance, and then managing it multi-channel. So you're doing, mom and pop brick and mortar stores, you're doing department stores that you're selling to, and we're selling on e-commerce and eventually also our own retail. So I think what that taught me, and it was a much younger group of people in the school, in the company, managing young people is fun, right? Because everyone's a dreamer, right? At the end of the day, you tell people, hey, we can do this, and they're all like, hooray, we can all do it, and so you fall down, you get up, and we had good support, we had good advisors and things like that. But managing a multi-channel business is very, very tough. You have to manage the marketing elements, you have to manage the supply chain side of things, you have to manage operations, demand, and cash flow is obviously the killer of all businesses. So I think that gave me all the bases I needed, and I did this in US, Canada, and Mexico. So one of the toughest and most competitive markets. And back then I also launched the business predating the 2008 crash in 2007. And everyone told me I was crazy, I think it couldn't have gone any other way. We wanted to do it. We had an opportunity. We raised money, which was the first time I raised, 2.2 million or 2.3 million bucks back then. And ultimately, it was just the most exciting time of our lives for that period of time. And of course, there were parts that eventually I sold part of the company. I had to wind down other parts that were less profitable. And so I went through the whole cycle of emotional kind of startup management, hiring people, letting people go. Absolutely. Excessive attachment, because it's your first baby, right? I mean, if you have children, what you know is that your first son, you're extremely protective over. The second one, you just let them run around because
you just let them bounce around. You'll be okay.
Exactly. So ultimately, the evolution was, and there were many other businesses in between here and there, from commodities trading to technology advising to global expansion for other brands that we did as an advisory service. But ultimately, on the European side, there was an opportunity to launch Consina. So I was told, listen, if you would like, you can come and join here. It's going to be a startup. It's going to be in Turkey, where I haven't been since the age of 5. I grew up in Switzerland. I have nothing to do with Turkey as the history goes. And so ultimately, I said, hey, look, it's a cool challenge. At the time, my girlfriend, who today is my wife, who's American, we were planning on going to Switzerland, and I told her last minute, listen, change of plans. We're going to Turkey.
We're going to the beach. Course, instead
exactly.
She was getting the skis out, and you were.
Exactly. And we came, and it was tough. I mean, adaptation was tough. My Turkish wasn't even good enough. I was people who wrote to me in Turkish in the office. I wrote back in English, at that time. Now I've recovered it and all of that over time. But what was amazing was the amount of knowledge that we had processed in our previous businesses of so much different variables and factors. Well, in this industry, you have even more of it, but you have more time, because regulation-wise, it takes time to bring products to market, or R&D-wise, it takes time to develop a drug and pass it through the various stages. So for me, I was intellectually curious, obviously. It was very challenging at the end of the day. But what was nice was also that, coming from a background of being with very versatile people who are open to ideas, to an industry where people are very closed to ideas, right? And then now having to challenge them out of their skin. And saying, no, I don't agree. I don't believe this is the only way possible. I need you guys to go back to the drawing board, And so over time, this ended up being pretty successful, and now is still in its, let's say, evolution to create a revolution.
Yeah, wonderful. A couple of things you said there that I really relate with as well is I moved to Dubai in 2007. So just before was apparently a crash. I didn't even hear anything or see it because I was very focused on what I was doing at the time. And also the other thing I can relate with as well, when I set my own business up in 2014, all of the going through all of the waves of challenge as well and emotion, when you do find yourself in more of a stable organization, you find you're kind of equipped with a lot of the skills. You've got a thick skin to a lot of the tough stuff. And nothing seems to be as much of a problem once you've
Yeah.
been through the really tough stuff and your back's been up against the wall. So you must have quite a large team now, Murat, as well. And I imagine you've acquired a large number of people, and you've got the Turkish side of the business as well. One thing that I was keen to ask as well is some of the skills that you've seen over the last few years, and maybe last decade even, but what are some of the things that you're seeing that's been really highly valuable for you when you're looking at your team or bringing on new people? What are some of the things that have been really standout skills for you, and or maybe even attitudes or mindsets, as we spoke about briefly earlier on?
So I think what's important to do is to separate the skill sets required for different stages of a company's, let's say, position. I mean, if you are a multinational who is well established, you need very different people than if you are a startup, or if you're let's say even just 20, 30 people, you need different people than if you're 100 people, right? I mean, it's just a standard evolution in the process. For me, I find that grit is most probably the most important item that I would look for in anybody. I mean, this is not just for sales, not just for marketing. It's also for finance. It's also for operations, because it's that aspiration inside to want to create more, own what you're doing, and not be told what to do, but to just constantly challenge the status quo to do something better. And at the end of the day, I think this is the value we're always looking for. It's not easy to find. People believe they have it. And people always want to be involved in entrepreneurial ventures, but they don't understand the challenges and the sacrifices. Even as a paid employee, even if you're not a partner in the company, it's still expected of you to behave like you're a partner in the company, right? Because if you don't, I only have so many people that can help me be the extensions to my hands and my strategy and my tactics. And if there is a single person, maybe this is cliche, but they always say, if everybody's rowing on a boat and one person stops, well, that's you're only as strong as the weakest link, right? But it is really like that, because ultimately the weak link, what ends up doing is that somebody else ends up doing the job of the weak link. And once that happens in a small company where you don't have as many people who are specialized, if you have one person that's looking both at supply chain as well as quality, as well as a bunch of other stuff, and you don't have 3 people for that, well, that one person's strength is absolutely essential to the success of the company if you want to grow fast. If you want to take your time, you want to plan things, you can do that. It's not my style. I get bored. I want to see things happen in real time. And I think one thing very important that people forget whenever they're working in the healthcare industry is even the finances speed in reacting to responses to suppliers or whatever ultimately has a way of being one of the links in the value chain to delivering a product on time to a patient. And so if anybody in the company is like, oh, you know what, I'll take my coffee break and then I'll respond to this email, you can bet yourself that that's going to have a ripple effect that's going to create a delay to reaching that patient, maybe by 30 minutes, maybe by 2 hours, maybe by 2 days. And so for us, what's very important is everything we do is to speed up access to medicines for unmet medical needs for patients who are having difficulties accessing them. And for physicians who might not have the tools they need. So grit is definitely the driving factor, I would say.
So a couple of brilliant, and I'm really interested to hear as well how you measure that as well, and how you identify it. There's one thing you said there which really stood out, which is somebody was talking online about the speed it used to take to acquire a business or do large business deals. And he said, let's say for argument's sake, it takes 4 weeks. He said, well, nowadays with all the modern technology that we've got and the ease of communication, you would think it would take half the time, but it takes twice the amount of time, because nobody wants to put their name on anything. Nobody wants to sign off. I'll let Bob do it over there. I'll let Sandra sign off on there. So people are more risk averse and not willing to put their name on something and take the action, like the finance example that you mentioned there. It has a huge impact. Somebody saying, well, I don't want to sign off on that one, I'll let somebody else do.
Yeah. So, well, why do CEOs hire consultants? is just to confirm their decisions. I mean, it's kind of you hire them to say, oh, I want to launch a factory in Russia, and at the end of the day you go and you get whatever Deloitte or whoever else to do this whole feasibility and say, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, guess what? Tomorrow, if it goes sour, they go, well, listen, Deloitte advised us.
Deloitte said, yeah. Yeah, I guess McKinsey has built a whole business on that, haven't they, over the years?
Absolutely. And look, there's a huge value to consulting companies as well, because we can't know everything. And what their product is they're selling their accumulated knowledge, and they're selling it in a way that you can really ask specifically for what you want, and you get at least the most well-defined answer that has been risk adjusted and kind of assessed. But coming back to your point, I mean, just my management style or leadership style is very much so that I'm the first one to jump on the decision, right? So I don't care what the outcome's going to be. I want to be the one that says, okay, guys, good or bad, we're going into this. We've made our feasibility. Yes, there's risk, but we're going to have to figure that risk out along the way. Right? I mean, risk is unavoidable. It's going to be there. Let's just minimize it. And I always tell everyone in the company, I say, I don't need people to give me 100% perfection. What I need you to be 70 to 80% is what I want in terms of your output in the growth phase of the company, not when you're really well established, but in the growth phase, because being 80% good is better than wasting another 2-3 months trying to be 100%, because I'm going to supply medicine to people who need them. So why should I waste another 2-3 months if I can solve things along the way, as long as they're not essential, to the quality, safety, and whatnot of these patients. So I'm really technology is important, but I think legal has become a much bigger issue. So it's not just about technology, but it's also about companies that are really assessing all of the legal ramifications of acquiring companies. Then people are assessing the macroeconomic environment much more in detail. So they're speaking to banks, they're speaking to economists, they're speaking, and of course, all of this just delays the inevitable decision that, hey, you took that decision, you want to grow, and you want to grow inorganically. So if you want to grow inorganically, you're going to have to buy a company, and likely that company is going to have skeletons in the closet that you're never going to be able to dig out in any due diligence. So at the end of the day, if you've done at least 80% of the job correctly, you should acquire the company, bite the bullet, and fix the things going forward. Is my style, at least. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And we talked briefly early on about IDEOGEN as a concierge almost to the industry as well, which is a really nice word, and it has a lot of positive connotations to it as well. And a question that I posed a little while ago when we were preparing for the podcast was about the importance of partnerships as well, because I imagine you can't do everything yourself, and given that you're an international business, I imagine that partnerships and JVs and collaboration is a big part of your daily life as well. How do you go about achieving that balance to get the ultimate result of being a desired concierge?
Yeah, so I think a big part of it is we do rely on technologies that other companies use as well, like global data, IMS, in the pharma sector, or IQVIA nowadays, as it's called. In addition to this, we of course work with if it's specific countries where we might not have the know-how, we do work with local external partners that we evaluate who have a lot of acumen in the areas where we are trying to launch products or make them available. So there is a blend of technology, there's a blend of people. At the end, it always comes down to people. You can have all the technology in the world, but at the end of the day, all businesses are people businesses, and if you can, I think this is one of the biggest shortcomings that has come as a result of COVID, is that everyone is of this strong belief that somehow, they can work from home and continue to build businesses that are going to create valuable services and products, and also keep the customer or patient at the center of their focus. But for startup companies, this is not possible. It's simply, you have to be a team in an office. You have to build an ethos. You have to build a concept that's above and beyond life. And you cannot do that through Zoom. right? I mean, or Teams or whatever everybody uses nowadays, right? At the end of the day, and to be honest, I'm one of those people who's very much against the hybrid working model. And believe me, I'm bored in the office too. I know that I don't always have stuff to do, but out of principle, I stay in the office as a signal to everybody that I'm here because I want to be a part of something. And if you're a big company like a multinational, and I know they want their people back in the office as well, but they have so many standards and checks and oversight
operating
and
procedures and
exactly that it's impossible for them to almost insist on 100% full time, because everything is measurable, right? But if you're a startup, you're in the process of creating the measurement environment, right?
Absolutely. You're setting the foundations. Do you feel, and I don't know if this is just, I'm picking up on American influence as well. Do you feel like you've had a good, the time in the US was a really good influence on it? Because I do love the American mindset in business as well. And a lot of the sales guys I speak to in the US, I think, absolutely gold. What are your thoughts on that?
So I mean, as a person who has worked in Europe, in a small amount in Asia, but in Turkey as an emerging market, and then of course a long time in the US. For me, most probably the hardest working people on this planet are Americans. Period. There's not, and it's more of their work ethic when they're at work. Okay, it's not about they work outside of work and all of that, but I think culturally they never talk about money, but money is a big driver. And at the end of the day, they know that if they get an email at 8 p.m., or 9 p.m., they respond to it immediately, right? In Europe, very rarely, except for certain cultures, right? Like the Dutch, the English, they're also very, because they come from this colonial background of having, created fast-moving businesses and whatever. There is a tendency that you keep waiting, a couple of days until you get a response. But for example, the other side of this is, for example, in an emerging market like Turkey, there is, most probably because of the economics of the country, there is a huge creative spirit. There is a huge will to work. They work all the time. Even in the evenings, they will respond immediately to emails. They have other parts of themselves which can be lazy under the wrong management, but rightfully managed, they have the similar attributes of the U.S. Workforce. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that the GDP is way less. People want to earn more, have a better life. They come from a history of, let's say, a worse economy 20, 30 years ago. And so they want to improve just to get to the point of normal living and enjoy, let's say, the things the US has been enjoying for 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
So different driving factors there, but at the end of the day, definitely US has a lot to do with how I approach things. I mean, everything's possible, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoyed working with companies and individuals in Israel as well. I don't know if you've got an experience there. And there's a lot of Israelis in North America as well. In San Jose, I had a client there, just incredible work ethic and attention to detail. And again, very passionate people who are, I didn't realize until a couple of years ago, until I started working with some of them, how far on they are in many ways, in terms of health care and technology.
Oh, they are. I mean, you would be surprised. We actually have a partner from Israel that we're launching an orphan drug for in the plasma space. And recently, I think we put a post up about the conference about it. But extremely smart people, extremely meticulous in detail, as you mentioned. Sometimes almost too much. I would say they really want to know everything down to the drawers. And they really want to know everything, which is beautiful, because what is that you have a partner who is just as engaged as you are. I'm investigating the physician, the patient aspect in market to commercialize it. Well, they're investigating all of my planning and preparation and supply chain and all of that in the same let's say, level of motivation and grit, I would say. And so finding the right patient, there's a lot of opportunities, of course. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
Fabulous. And just as we wrap things up as well, what's next for you and IDEOGEN? Are you traveling now after the holidays? Are you focusing on conferences, events? What's in the pipe for you and IDEOGEN?
So I think now that the English Queen has passed away, condolences to her. I think my first visit is to the UK next Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we'll organize a meetup.
Yeah, we have suppliers over there. It was already planned, but somehow happened at the same time. So I'm actually looking forward to that. And general tours of conferences, congresses, that they are speeding up now until the end of the year. But I think also, when it comes to the last quarter, everyone's kind of whipping the horses into place and being like, all right, guys, we have the last miles to go. So let's just get going. But I think for me, strategically speaking, we are really looking to make a bigger evolution now with the right strategic partnerships to take on more products that are very specialized and help companies to commercialize them so patients can have access to them. So we're looking to license more and more products over the coming year or two. That's our primary focus. And also flirting with some private equity as well. So that helps. Going from organic growing to inorganic growing is kind of where we are right now, I would say.
Right. That's really exciting. And I'll make sure that I share all the details of how people can get in touch with you and IDEOGEN as well, and make sure we're sharing across all the platforms. And just last question that I like to ask as well, Murat, is looking back, you've had a really exciting career and life, traveling the world and such. If you could look back and have a chat with maybe the guy who's just leaving university or just getting into work, what advice would you give 20 years old, Murat, or 18 years old, as they're about to embark, as Murat was about to embark on his career, from lessons learned, a bit of hindsight?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is definitely look for a mentor in a small startup company, someone who has actually done at least launched one or two companies prior, and I would try to get into a startup ASAP. I would stay away from every big major brand there is out there, unless you are really a corporate guy, that finds comfort in going the corporate route and want to just go up the ladder and so on and so forth. Of course, this depends on your background, whether you're a doctor or you're something else. But most doctors graduating today are not practicing, or most lawyers aren't even becoming lawyers. So the world has shifted. But I would definitely say, if there's a time for you to take risk, it's directly out of college. So don't waste your next 10 years thinking you're going to gain a lot of experience in big companies, because that experience you think is experience, you could get in 1 year working for a startup.
Yeah, now's the time, isn't it? I know I left home when I was sort of 18 and a half, 19. But if I could have stayed at home for another 3 or 4 years and experience that startup life, obviously different generations, and I was a golf pro as well, so I had my own path set up for myself. But I think doing it again, those are the years, aren't they, when you're less financially burdened, children,
Absolutely.
Mortgage, all the rest of it. That's wonderful.
And also, just one thing maybe to wrap it up is the beauty of people who are coming out. Everyone keeps talking about Gen Z, Gen X, Gen this, Gen that. At the end of the day, people coming out of university are basically a canvas. And that's why we love to work with them. A lot of people say, no, I need experienced people. But if you have at least the passion and will to train them, you can mold them into something. So what often ends up happening is people coming out of university, going to their first job, and if that job is a motivation killer, and if it's like really fixing your mindset somewhere, it's very difficult for them to change that afterwards. So they need to go into an environment that really flourishes their creativity, their potential, and allows them to spread their wings and fly. Like
Absolutely. So it says more about the business than it does about the person. If the business is ready to invest time into nurturing and training and developing, there's an abundance of opportunity if the leader has that shares that mindset with you of, we can create we can create an oil painting here. You know, Mona Lisa is just sat waiting to be drawn there, rather than the experience and the baggage all the time. But yeah, it's a really, really nice point to wrap up with there. Murat, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great to meet you in the flesh as well. I know we've had conversations before, but really great to meet you. And yeah, extremely grateful for you joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the viewers. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, I hope there's millions.
Yeah. Take care.
Cheers, Matt.